Are we now exploring alternatives to signing Osimhen in this summer window? Well, today, my friends, I'm here to discuss the latest surprising news around potential striker reinforcements for the summer. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that like button as well too. And I'm hoping that tomorrow I can finally release what went right against Man City. This series can be a bit hard to release because most times the videos do get taken down, but you know, I try my hardest, I put some work into things, and I'm hoping by tomorrow things are looking more promising. So my friends, stay tuned for that, enjoy the video, and without wasting any more time. So let's discuss the first story coming out from Italy, and it comes from Corriere dello Sport, and it focuses around one of the surprise sensations in Serie A this season, and that is none other than Joshua Zirkzee. Now, before I continue on, I feel like I have to do like a quick disclaimer because when I read some of the comments, I feel like maybe some people miss the point of these news videos. Obviously, I'm not Sky Sports. I don't have exclusive access anymore to what's happening behind the scenes, but I like to use these videos as kind of like a news reaction video where we can discuss the serious reports that come out, we can discuss the interesting reports, transfer targets, and of course rumors as well too. So I try to find the best stories to cover to try and keep things a bit more relevant and entertaining. So I feel like I have to say that so some of you guys don't forget the point of these types of videos. But regardless, let's focus on this report from Corriere dello Sport, and it mentions that us, Man United, and a ton of European powerhouses are paying great attention to Joshua Zirkzee, and that's for very good reason because this season Bologna are one of these surprise packages in Serie A. They currently find themselves 5th in the league, level on points for Champions League qualification, and they've been absolutely sensational under Thiago Motta. I imagine that Napoli are very, very disappointed that they missed out on having Motta replace Belletti last summer because the stuff he's doing with them right now, and with how far Napoli have fallen this season too, they missed out big time. But one of the players that is shining so much under Thiago Motta is Joshua Zirkzee, and I feel like when I see his profile, when I see him play, he is a very unique type of player because not only does he have incredible technique, but he is 6'3", 6'4". He is huge, he is massive, and he is like the perfect mixture of physicality and that deft technique. Currently for Bologna, he has 1 goal in every 3 games, but his talents don't solely rely upon putting the ball in the back of the net. At Bologna, he kind of plays like a second striker role. He plays more of like the number 10 type of role, but I don't even think that's doing full justice to that. And he's a player that drives up the field, of course, and he's the type of player that links the midfield and the attack. He is so good at carrying the ball and driving it up the field. But on top of that, this guy is a great ball player. He regularly is playing switch balls to find his teammates. He can play those passes in behind. He links up superbly well with a focal point up front as well too. And what I like about Zirkzee is that he is a player that can create his own goals. He has an impressive, powerful shot, very clean shooting technique. And just this week, he scored an absolute sensational goal against Lazio. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this story was that Onsin revealed, I think a few weeks back, that obviously we have ambition to sign big players, but don't be surprised if we didn't sign a superstar this summer because we are still going to stay strong to our transfer strategy of signing players under a certain age and looking for those talents that can become the next big star. And I do feel like there is something in Zirkzee which is giving me, this guy can go to a different level. I think when I see his evolution, I think he could become that, Harry Kane-esque type of forward. When I mention that, I'm talking about that deep line centre forward that can link up with his teammates, that can drop deep into those spaces. But he has that unique ability where he has the ball skills of like a winger in these areas, and he has the playmaking of a number 10. This can give him that separation if he was to continue to evolve in this role. And the fact that he is 6'4", that he's a massive unit, that he has that physicality, this makes him a very, very exciting prospect. I feel like with this window in particular this summer, our directors and the manager, they have to get things right now because this window has to be the window that we use to finish rebuilding this team. We have to get every detail right. But when I think about a talent like Zirkzee, if he was to be developed to be a striker, would that mean that Nico Jackson now plays on the left wing? What does that now mean for Nkunku? In my opinion, I feel like both could play because Nkunku is that complete that he can play up front. He was doing that last season for RB Leipzig. And I'm hoping that we continue to see Nkunku playing up front for us this season, because I think there's a reason why Pochettino is using him up front when he does play now. So, so many possibilities and things to think about. But, talents like this, I feel, make a lot of sense. They won't cost a fortune. I think this guy's wages are like 22,000 euros a week. It's absolutely nothing. And I think there is big upside in the future, but it could potentially fall this path we've been falling down of, waiting for tomorrow to come, when I guess today is also very important. So that is the Joshua Zirkzee news. So that is the Zirkzee news out the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. So now for the next story, we turn our attentions back to Brazil, because a report came from the ever-reliable Brazilian journalist Jorge Nicola, and he reports that we have earmarked Flamengo's number 9 in Pedro as a potential centre-forward option for the summer. Now, as we know, Osimhen is target number 1. We have not been wasting our time having all these conversations with the player if we felt like we couldn't sign him in the end. But in this game, you always need to have your backup plans, because anything could happen, and we know that Paris Saint-Germain see Osimhen now as number 1 target for this summer. So now that we understand the context, let's dive into the story. And for some information around the player, he currently has a 60 million release clause in his deal, but does that mean that we'll spend 60 million to sign him? Absolutely not. They only have these really high values in their contracts to try and earn more money for their sales, but when does any player in Brazil leave for their release clause value? Benfica had an 80 million bid turned down to try and sign him, and he had big interest in Saudi Arabia, plus other clubs like Cadiz in Spain and Tottenham also looked at the player. Now, back in the summer, of course, Flamengo rejected these 80 million bids. They were holding out for around 25 million euros, which isn't too crazy, considering the amazing form in which Pedro is starting this season with 7 goals and 1 assist in 7 games. You'd imagine that Flamengo feel like they could earn more money for his sale if he was to leave in the summer window. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Who the hell is Pedro Nini? I'm tired of all these unknown players. We need to sign the big star guys to complement these young players. And that is a sentiment I definitely agree with. But even though he might not be the most ambitious move, he could be the most sensible move to make if our plans to sign our number 1 guys fail this summer. And that's because the way in which Pedro plays would complement what Pochettino is trying to build. I think it's quite obvious that Poch ideally prefers to have more of a player up front that can drop into spaces in behind, that can link up with his teammates, that can play teammates in. We're seeing this with Nico Jackson. We're currently seeing Nkunku playing more up front now that he's returned, compared to playing as a 10 or playing wide. I think Poch has settled on wanting to use a midfield 3. So if he has box-to-box mids, if he has wingers that get goals, you need to have that striker that complements this way of playing, that has the ability to drop deep. And that is something Pedro can now do to a very good level. Now, I think he's like 6'2", and beforehand he was a striker known for being a predator inside the box. He get on the far post, he has a very powerful shot, he takes his shots early, all the basic stuff that players that have ambitions to play at a higher level need to have in their game. But I think what's given some separation and what's garnering this interest now in the player is the fact that he is now very adept when it comes to moving into spaces behind him and bringing his teammates into the game. He's been praised for this quite a lot with his transformation in his game, and it's this type of transformation which makes him a more interesting option for many European clubs now. Now, when he was younger, he did sign for Fiorentina for big money, but he didn't necessarily work out. And I think the main reason as to why he never worked out back then is that he isn't a pacey striker. So it made sense for him to work on the technical aspects of his game to become more of like a deep line forward player. And currently for Flamengo, he does play in a 4-3-1-2. And he does play in a very fair front 3 where, of course, he's bringing his teammates into the game. I'm trying to understand why we'd be interested or why we'd be following a player like this. I'd imagine that our data models are probably showing quite impressive numbers around the player. And also, I think the fact that he's quite tall, he's very good aerially. It might mean that he could be quite suited to life in the Premier League, because he has that physical advantage to be able to cope. So now I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a massive expert on the player. I'm not going to act like maybe the club are silly for looking at players like this. I think that if you can always find that rare player that can suit what you're trying to build, then I think you should go for that. And I'm interested to see what happens with this story, because what if we sign two strikers, like, a big name striker, a more of like a backup striker? Could Pedro potentially be that guy in the summer? Who knows right now, but it's definitely a story to pay attention to, and let's see what other reports come out around the story. So my friends, let's start end things by discussing some surprising news around Mathys Tel of Bayern Munich. Now, this story is more of a rumor, so let's understand that one. And I guess this rumor is no surprise, right? Because Bayern are in terrible form right now. They've not won a game in 4. We know the standards of Bayern Munich are impossibly high. But one of the players that has kind of suffered recently has been Mathys Tel. Now, recently he got some minutes against, VfL Bochum, but before that, he hadn't started a game. He wasn't really getting used much, and Bayern paid big money to Rennes to sign him as a 17-year-old because they've earmarked him as a potential standout starting player in the future. But at the moment, Mathys Tel is not feeling that love, and I guess it's no surprise that if things are a bit up in the air right now, where the player needs more confidence about his position at Bayern Munich, what's his agent going to do? His agent is going to agent. His agent will assess to see what the market is saying, and it might not even necessarily be because he is looking to force a move for his client. But if anything happens, because this is a human sport and decisions can just change overnight, he needs to be ready, right? So it only makes sense to assess the market, and most importantly, this will give him the leverage that he needs to do whatever with Bayern Munich. But anyway, reports in Germany are saying that right now Tel wants to assess his future, and that is focused around who the manager could potentially be. Now, at this point in time, Thomas Tuchel's role is safe at Bayern Munich, and I think that's because they're waiting to get a new president right now, so it wouldn't make any sense to sack a manager before the president of Bayern is instated in his position. But reports say that if Tuchel doesn't fix things up, does not fix things up, then Bayern could potentially turn to Zinedine Zidane. And he is like an Ancelotti manager where, he maximizes his star players and he allows the star players to actually star. And I think maybe this is why you're seeing a bit of a difficulty between Bayern's squad and Thomas Tuchel, because I do feel like Tuchel's football heavily favors and centers around automatisms. And I feel like if you're a player that isn't as individually great as like your Sané's or Musiala's or whatever, you will prosper. And I think that's why we did so well, and that's why we won the Champions League under Tuchel. But I think outside of that, not every player responds that well to this type of coaching, right? So let's see what happens there. But it does seem like whoever the manager is at Bayern Munich will play a massive role in persuading and determining whether Mathys Tel remains at that football club. So obviously United have made contacts, which they're going to do, and reports are now saying that we are also assessing the situation as well too. Now, in my opinion, if I could sign anyone from Bayern Munich, it is only going to be one man, and that is Jamal Musiala. It still hurts me to this day that he is not playing for us. I mean, this is a potential Ballon d'Or winner. I think that's safe to say, right? But when it comes to Tel, he's another player that I rate very highly. Every FM save, I'm signing him for us. And I think to myself, it's an interesting profile to turn towards, because maybe he becomes a striker when he gets older. But at this point in time, I think he looks very dangerous coming off the left flank. And maybe playing more of like a left-sided forward role could work well for him if hypothetically we were to sign him, because it does seem like we are expecting to see some changes up front for next season. And I do think Tel being a wide forward that gets goals, having a deep line forward plus another goal scoring winger out wide on the right hand side in like a Cole Palmer or Madueke, I think that synergy kind of works. And I guess when I see it that way, maybe this is why we'd express some light intent on Mathys Tel. Who knows right now, my friends. But anyway, his contract expires in 2027. Bayern are trying to tie him down to a long-term deal. So, don't get your hopes up. Don't get too excited. But with these types of stories and reports that come out, it just, emphasizes the point that clubs, they really pay attention to the market, and they can be a lot more fluid than we give them credit for. So my friends, on that note, that is the latest news surrounding exciting attacking players for this summer. Let's see what happens, but I'm expecting summer to be a massive window full of many new signings and players getting sold. So of course, hit the like button, share your thoughts and opinions, and fingers crossed the what went right video against Man City hopefully is able to get uploaded tomorrow and doesn't get taken down again. So hit this like button if you guys want to wish me some good luck in that aspect. And on that note, I'm Nini FC, this is BlueLionsTV. I will see you guys tomorrow. Cool.